From the rainforest to the reef, such as the diversity of far North Queensland, the Nat Geo students now sail out to a coral cay known as the Low Isles.
We took about an hour and we got out to the middle of the ocean and we snorkeled in the Great Barrier Reef all together. We all had our wetsuits on and we got our private tour.
On shore, the students learn more about the reef and its wonders from marine biologist Christine Gleeson.
Great Barrier Reef, it's home to about 3,000 individual reef systems. Extends about 2,300 kilometres along the coast of Queensland. It's home to about 360 species of hard coral, about 40 species of soft coral, about 1,500 fish species. The hard corals themselves have a limestone skeletons made up of calcium carbonate. So over successive generations of the corals, it's built up on those layers of the dying dead coral. Corals spawn annually. It's a big highlight coming to the reef sort of around October, November every year, and after the full moon. Corals, they spawn together, so there's massive gametes floating around in the water during the coral spawning period. You've got eggs and sperm mixed in together to maximise fertilisation chances of the coral. Education is highly important here on the reef. It's good for the kids to take home a message about the state of the coral. Everyone knows about the future threat of global warming. Trying to do our very best to keep the reef here for the future.
The final word comes from one of the hosts of this National Geographic tour, Dana Dayton.
It's extremely important. These kids are going to be in charge of the planet for us and for future generations. And the more of them that learn how to do it and they can pass that down, to their friends and even teach their parents, it's very, very important. I think we're at a critical time, and we at National Geographic, want to do all we can to inspire more people to care about, how they act, what they throw out, what they recycle, and I think these kids are great ambassadors for us.
Travel Oz.
Well, now to the Tasmanian capital of Hobart, a city of enormous charm. From its waterfront restaurants, art galleries and marketplaces here around Constitution Dock to the stunning buildings of the former penal colony just south of here at Port Arthur. Today on Hobart's waterfront, we're visiting Salamanca Place. From the days of the early mariners to today, this is the place to hang out in Hobart, with traders and shoppers packing it out on Saturdays. From curios to the curious. Fresh fruit and vegetables, picked yesterday, on sale today. And with the eucalyptus trees in flower, honey lovers like me get a chance to sample some really yummy honey. So Jackie, this is all pure Tasmanian honey.
Pure Tasmanian honey, yes.
Some of it from the Huon Valley, some of it off Rooney Island.
Rooney Island, Florentine Valley, yep, right up near Lake Feta.
You can give me a sample of this, thank you so much.
Yep, this is the leatherwood.
And I'm a real honey lover. With so much of Tasmania still heavily forested, there's been an abundance of timber to carve. Creations of all forms are on display.
Huon pine inside. Nearly 1,000 years old.
Finally, there's the Huon pine creations from timber that was growing well before Jesus Christ was a lad. So it's an old timber, isn't it?
Oh, it's 3,000 years old. You can't touch it till it's fully matured. So it takes 3,000 years to fully grow. Yeah, Huon pine's the easiest to carve. I think the myrtle's probably one of our hardest timbers. But this is, like carving butter, Huon pine.
A 90-minute drive south of Hobart brings us to a place of high history. Now, Port Arthur, the penal colony of penal colonies. Some 10,000 prisoners served time here, are hardened prisoners, many of them working here in the granary and bakery, others flogged just over here with the cat-o'-nine-tails. Port Arthur is officially Tasmania's top tourist attraction, known for its harsh conditions, dark history and stark beauty. Between 1833 and the 1850s, the hardest of convicted British and Irish criminals was sent here. Alex, irony was here at Port Arthur that so many people were here that didn't want to be here, and yet tourists, even in those days, back in the 19th century, came to see them.
Even in the 19th century, people wanted to come here to Port Arthur, not so much to see the buildings people do today, but to actually see the convicts. Commandant Booth described the convicts in heavy chains as being the lions, not so much because they were wild animals, but because it was an analogy to the Tower of London in London, where the lions were the main attraction. People wanted to come to Port Arthur to see these prisoners who were some of the most hardened criminals in the British Empire.
Alex, this guard tower here, these turrets built of sandstone by the convicts, some as young as 9 years old.
Well, that's right, yes. All the stonework in this structure was cut and dressed by Point Poor boys. So juveniles, mostly aged between 12 and 17, but the youngest indeed was 9 years old. And he was a boy transported for stealing toys.
Hardened prisoners they may have been, but they still went to church here in this Roman Catholic
That's right.
cathedral.
Yes, yes. This was the Roman Catholic chapel, and religious instruction, of course, was very important to the reform process. And Sunday, of course, was the day that they all got a clean shirt.
The dining hall, what were they eating?
Eating, well, morning you had gruel for breakfast. Lunch was a sit-down meal, a boiled pickled meat of some sort, whether it be beef, pork or mutton, and then evening gruel again.
And what about escapes? Many people get out of here?
Many attempted to escape. You notice there's no wall around the outside of the prison. Initially, the authorities thought that this place was virtually impossible to escape from. But one of the later commandants, James Boyd, he lamented that in his view, there was nothing stopping convicts running away, hiding in the bush, building boats and sailing away.
Anybody successful?
Well, there are about 10 convicts that we don't know what happened to them. So either they were drowned, lost at sea, or their bodies died, or they died in the bush.
Or
Bodies
they
never
survived.
recovered. Or they
were
escaped,
successful.
Found new lives. Exactly.
Next time we travel Oz, the biggest Indigenous gathering of the year, stirring performances at the Garma Festival. The two Tims hit the road for a marathon road trip around outback Queensland. And up close with exotic creatures at the National Zoo in Canberra. Watch yourself there, because if she comes up, she can easily put a paw through here. Oh, goodness gracious me. I do hope you've enjoyed this episode of Travel Oz. We end with a very special performance from the Yidaki from Jalu.
Travel